And you might think, what if I fall? Well, what if you don't? What if you fly?
Hey Bible Babe, welcome back to the Bible Babe Network. My name is Jael.
And my name is Connie.
So this is the Bible Babe Network where we have open and honest conversations about faith, mental health, and the Bible. We are unapologetically breaking stigmas one conversation at a time. So today we are actually going to be talking about boldly clothed faith, fashion, and expression. Today's conversation is one that I have wrestled with personally because I work in fashion content creation as well. And I've dealt with the fashion industry on just so many levels. And I felt the sting of judgment for what I've worn in the past, even now what I wear, and sometimes by people who don't know my heart. And I just know that this is a conversation that just is not only going to relate to me. I know that I'm not alone. So that's why this conversation is really important to me. But I do believe what we wear affects how we are treated, especially in religious spaces. It can be hard to navigate the conversation of modesty and purity when the baseline is shame and vilification. And I don't want to sound like cliche or biased, but Jesus really doesn't care about the length of our skirt and our hemline. I just wanted to put that out there. I think it's a conversation that we need to have because we tie holiness to our outfits and the way that we dress, when ultimately holiness and modesty really has to do with the posture of our heart. And the conversation we're going to have today is just going to tie in all of that and pretty much how that impacts our mental health and the shame that we deal with and confidence, issues of confidence and sense of belonging and all of that.
And our anchor scripture for this conversation is taken from Proverbs 31:25. And it says, "Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come." So that just goes right back into what you said, Jael, is that God doesn't look at the hemline of our skirt. He looks at our strength and our honor that we project as women, such as Esther. Mm-hmm. And Esther, she navigated through slavery to queenship after she went a whole year of beauty treatments to become the queen. And yet it was her courage, her strength, and her honor that ended up saving Israel. Mm-hmm. Not her clothing, not that she was wearing fashionable garments, but it was her courage. So for the purpose of fashion, without idolizing it though, and I think that's what you were saying, Jael, is that when you know the person's heart, it doesn't matter if they're dressed in a burlap bag or if they're dressed in a garment that is absolutely stunning that may be above the knee. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about first, before we get into the topic, an icebreaker. So Jael, what is one outfit that maybe you have worn that you felt most comfortable and most confident, and why?
I don't really have a specific outfit that makes me feel confident, but I think because now I am more confident in who I am and as a person, number one, and who I am with my relationship with Christ and also in my purpose, whatever I wear now definitely reflects that. So I'm always confident in what I wear, whether it be palatable to some people or not. I'm confident in it because I found my purpose and I found Christ for myself and I found myself. So everything I wear now makes me feel very comfortable and makes me feel very confident. For you, what's one thing that you've been loving in your closet lately? Like one article of clothing, accessories?
Well, I like color. So anything in my closet that is colorful, that is vibrant, because I feel more vibrant and more alive when I wear color. I So that kind of is really, I can't choose one per se because I have so many that I thoroughly enjoy. And I love African prints. If I could wear African clothes 365, 7 days, I would. I would. Very loose fitting, very colorful, and very comfortable. I find them all to be very comfortable. So that's, I guess, why I'm more gravitating towards color.
No, it's funny that you said that because I think my theory is the older you become, the more you enjoy color. Because I used to not really be like a loud, colorful person, but I'm starting to see that the older I become, the more I enjoy prints, colors, and like maximalism, as people would say. And I've noticed that about like a lot of people. um my sister and I was actually talking about it the other day, that most of the things in her closet are very, very colorful, and I can relate with that too. Whereas like a few years ago, that wasn't really the case with her. So that's kind of like my theory. Like the older you become, the more you're open to experiment with style and different kind of like prints, fabric cuts, and all of that.
But I think it goes to what you said about confidence, right? Because if you're confident in and confidence comes with age. So that's why it to me, it makes a lot of sense. And not to say that when I was younger, I didn't wear color, because I always wore color. The only color that I've actually started to wear more recently is white, where I never wore white. It got dirty too quickly, et cetera, et cetera. But that was never my color. But I feel very confident in who I am as a person, who I am as a woman, and who I am as a Christian. And that affords me the ability to wear things that are very much more vibrant.
I just want us to talk a bit about personal style and identity. I know we already kind of started the conversation, but for starters, why do you think we care so much about what we wear? And I'll go first, right? Let me just get this out of the way. As a designer, I used to dress to kind of fit in with everyone, because the way I grew up, it was like if you were too much of an individual, it was seen as like a bad thing. So to have your own style, to be your own person, to have your own thing was kind of like, who do you think you are? So as I've gotten older, like I said before, and just discovered who I am and what I like about myself and what I like about my purpose and my relationship with God, it has completely like transformed my style, because the way I see myself is how I dress myself. And that reflects in the world, as now people tell me that I dress like I am very confident. And I am very confident in who I am. So back to the question for you. Why do you think we care so much about what we wear?
Because I think we're concerned about what other people think. I also think it has something to do with how sometimes we view ourselves. Like, I mean, I don't wake up every day like, yay, it's another day. So that reflects in what I wear, right? So I think our mood and our overall mental health also impacts how we dress, how we feel, and therefore the confidence that we may have that day. However, I'm a proponent that no matter how you feel, you need to get in the shower, you need to get dressed to the best of what you want to feel, and not necessarily what you're currently feeling. And I was raised just the opposite. My dad would wear well, I'm going dating myself now, but my dad would wear a leisure suit to work at a garage.
Oh.
And my grandfather owned his own bus company, and he didn't go to work, like in a pair of slacks and a shirt. He went to work in a business suit, basically. And that's how I was raised. And that's why I feel that it has impacted me in the way that I put myself together, that you need to have things that match. You need to, like, some people get dressed, it looks like, quote unquote, in the dark. And it's like, I don't know how confident you could possibly feel that you dress that way. But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. So I just think that your overall mental well-being has a lot to do with it. I think.
I mean, I don't think you're wrong, but I think that for the people that you're saying to get dressed in the dark, some people may say like, oh, fashion is subjective. Like the person that could be their style, their sense of style. And what then would you say to that? Because
Okay.
just, okay, period, with a bow.
We have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Because there are certain, stripes and flowers and greens and blues and purples and reds. I mean, okay, if that's your personal sense of style, okay.
Oh my goodness. As Deaconess Connie mentioned, we are going to be talking about Esther, and just kind of to bring Esther into this. Esther was, if you have time, please go and read the story of Esther. It's the book of Esther. You should find it in the New Testament. I'm just kidding. Basically, Esther was a slave, and Esther ends up marrying the king through this beauty pageant, just to kind of sum it up. But the process of like Esther going in to become the queen was just like a lot of hard work. Esther went through this like 12-month beauty prep to be the queen, and she knew how to serve the king because she was a slave for so long. And ultimately her purpose wasn't just to be Esther the beauty queen or Esther the pretty one that the king really loved. It was to be the deliverer of God's people. That was her purpose. And it didn't hurt that she did all of the training to get into the position. So she really did what she was supposed to do to get into the position to fulfill her purpose. And the reason why I am bringing that up is because I want us to talk about modesty, because when we're relating dressing and fashion and style to church and just to Christianity as a whole, the topic of modesty always comes up. And I don't, it's when it comes up, people kind of shy away from it because it can be a really touchy subject for some people. But I just want us to, we are just going to give our perspective on it today. And as always, you can join the conversation in the comment section. If you disagree with what we have to say, that's great. Let us know why you disagree. This is a safe space for open and honest conversation. So just going back to the word modesty, I took my time and I Googled this because I don't want any stone to be left unturned. I want us to touch on every single thing. So I'm just going to read the definition that I got. Google translates modesty as the quality or state of being unassuming or moderate in the estimation of one's ability. In the Bible, modesty is defined as humility, self-control, outward expression of an inner godly character. So for me personally, when I hear the word modesty, I think of someone like Moses, because he was a very meek man. He was a very humble man, and his character was overall godly. So in my personal definition, Moses fits the category of somebody that is modest in character and in behavior. Yes, he had his faults and his flaws, but the Bible does recall that he was the meekest man on earth.
But we all have flaws. We all have shortcomings for sure. But I agree, and it's through faith, right? Through faith is where we become humble. It's through faith where we become not just what we want to be, right? And that's where I think, it's the inability, it's the self-control, right? So but I'm going to challenge that, because did Moses have self-control when he was angry and hit the rock?
Moses lacked self-control at times, but the reason why I say overall he was a meek man is because every other character matched up to the definition. And I think that sometimes we can be a thing in how do I say this? Like, overall, our character can be this thing, but from time to time, we can kind of stray from it and deviate from it. So I think overall, Moses was a meek and modest man, but there were times when he did lose control, when he did get angry, when he acted out in flesh, which is what we see. But I still do believe that he was a modest man.
I agree. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Because we all have, because we all can't be always walking in faith, that we all have a character, right? Whether it be good, bad, or indifferent, but we're humans. We are flesh, and we always, always will, at some points, fall short a bit. But that doesn't make us a horrible person. That just makes us falling short at that particular time. I mean, we can go back to David, okay? And when David, he asked God for forgiveness. And when he asked God for forgiveness for his character flaw, God provided him with mercy, and then he was able to go on and fulfill his purpose.
Talking about modesty, I want to ask you, how do you feel about how modesty is presented in church? Like in the church amongst women, I would say.
Well, I think, like, let's say example, right? This dress is beautiful, but you have a tank top underneath it. I would not wear a tank top underneath it. Does that make you more modest than me? I don't think so. I just think that it's a different level of comfort.
Okay.
And needless to say, I don't have a purple tank top, so. I think that's the comparison, right? That's what we're really talking about, is what is your level of modesty and what is my level of modesty? Now, do I think that you're any less of a Christian woman than me? No. I just think we have different levels, right? So let me ask you, why did you wear a tank top under your dress?
Because it's comfortable.
Okay.
And I always wear a tank top under
Okay.
everything.
That's the reason then.
Yeah.
See, I don't.
Yeah.
And that's you know what I mean? That's what we're
No,
talking
no,
about.
I
It's
get
just
your
different.
point. Yeah. And what you're saying just reminded me of something God told me about it was in 2023, I think like September 2023. So the way the Holy Spirit broke it down for me is that some people are given personal convictions. So when they have their personal convictions, they turn that conviction into a doctrine. Like, for example, if God maybe tells me, I don't want you wearing jewelry anymore because this does not align with who I want you to be from now on. So then I misunderstand what God is telling me. And then I go, maybe I have a platform or something. Say I go to church and I tell people, do you know that if you're wearing jewelry that you're demonic? God says that you shouldn't wear jewelry. God did say that, but that was for me personally. So I think we have this idea where God is giving us personal conviction, personal messages, and we are turning those messages into doctrines. And we are then imposing it on other people when God had not said anything to them.
Right.
There was a time in my life when people were telling me, the skirt you're wearing, they're too short. You need to tighten up. You need to make them longer. And I was like, I didn't hear that from God. Mind you, I was wearing skirts that I wouldn't wear them because I did get a conviction from God. But at the time, I was still hearing God. I did still have a relationship with God, but he wasn't talking to me about that. So they got their conviction about what they were wearing, but God never convicted me about it.
Right.
So I think on the topic of modesty, we need to be careful on how we are addressing people about the things they're wearing, about how we are perceiving them, because maybe they're just not there yet.
Right.
Maybe God has not taken them to that point. And if you are continuously telling people like this is this and this is that, it could put them in a place of shame, and then shame will make them to run away from God. Because if I'm newly coming to church or coming to God and you're telling me that your God sees me as trash or slutty or whatever because I dress this way, that's not welcoming. That's going to make me, push back a little bit, like, oh, is this what y'all be doing over here? I would want no parts.
Exactly. It's like, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't
Yeah.
want that God in my life.
Yeah,
Because he's judging me. But God doesn't judge any of us. So I agree with you. I mean, what I wore maybe a decade ago and what I wear now, as far as length of dress or low cut, or it's changed. It's evolved. Let's put it that way. It's evolved. And not that I was going to church looking like
half naked.
I should be out on the street, but it was just, that's where I was at the time. And then, like you said, God said to me, no, you can't do that. I don't want you to do that. That's not my path that I have you on. So that's why now, if I were to wear, something that is a little lower cut of a top, I would wear something under it.
I just want to go back to when we're talking about the different stages of life that we're in, and how our style is kind of reflecting of that. The biggest thing for me this year has been to not dress for the special occasion, because I'm seeing life now as the special occasion.
Amen.
So, yeah. So, I have a wardrobe full of clothes that I save for big days and special days, but waking up every day is a big day. Waking up every day is a special day, and I've started to dress like that, and my style has started to reflect that. Because if you think about it, like, what are we saving the things that we love to wear? Like, for example, this beautiful outfit you have on, imagine if this outfit is only meant for the day that you are supposed to go to the beach. That could probably be like 3-4 months from now, and you really want to wear the outfit, but you're saving it because you're waiting for that big special day. When, I don't mean to like sound really dark, but we don't know if we are going to see
that big special day.
Yeah.
No, you're right. We don't, because we don't know what God has in store for us.
Right.
I mean, we don't know when our days, or when we are the last day on earth. We have no
Yeah.
idea. I mean, I've experienced a lot of people in my life that have gone very young, and then I've also known people that are in their 70s, 80s, and they're just dressing as if they're going to the supermarket. And that's one of the things that happened to me when I was when I was my first job after I graduated with my bachelor's degree. I worked with children. I was a therapeutic staff support, and I dressed like this for the most part. And people were always in jeans and t-shirts, and they're like, oh, you're overdressed. Well, you may think I'm overdressed, but I don't think I'm overdressed. And that goes to the comfort, and it's evolved over life. But like I had said earlier, that's how I was taught, that you always have to be dressed as if it is going to be your last day. I mean, something my mother used to tell me all the time as a kid was to make sure I had on clean underwear, because you never knew if you were getting into an accident. So that just tells you.
Wait, so how would that work? Like, if you get into an accident, what does your underwear have to do with it?
Because if they have to cut your clothes off.
Okay. I'm never not going to think about that now.
You are probably 90% of our viewers.
Oh my God.
And that's the other thing, when I travel like this, because I don't know who I'm going to meet on that airplane. I mean, I'm not going to travel in athletic wear, and I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just saying this is my choice. This is my style, because I don't know, and we never know what and who we're going to interact with. Going back to about what you said about God. I mean, God is our Alpha, our Omega, our beginning, and our end. And if he's going to tell me you cannot wear a blazer, then I won't wear a blazer.
Yeah. Because then if God says that to you, obviously that is like a personal conviction.
Right.
Again, back to the point. I think that also, like I said, dressing for different seasons in our life is also important, because I've seen many women, give birth and get married and get too comfortable and lose themselves, lose who they used to be. And I think that you can be a mom, you can be a wife, you can be a caregiver, what have you, and still be yourself. Because your style is like a reflection of you. And just specifically for where I grew up from when I was much, much little, we were not encouraged to be individuals, like I said. But as I started to grow into different environments, definitely saw that people with different styles, that their styles reflect them and made them unique. So if you know your unique style, I think that that's something that you really need to guide, because that is a part of you, like your character or your purpose, or the way in which you carry yourself. That's also a huge part of it. And I just wanted to touch on this also a little bit. I am, like I mentioned before, I'm a fashion content creator, so I'm going to speak from the space of a content creator and what I've seen. There's been like many women that have, given their life to Christ and became born again, whether they be beauty creators, fashion creators, lifestyle creators, what have you. And immediately they give, they give their life to Christ and they get baptized and become born again. Their entire content centers from being on the thing that God gave them, which was the platform to do and the talent and the skill. It becomes, I'm a Christian now, and it becomes, oh, fashion Christian content creator, beauty, makeup Christian content creator. And don't get me wrong, everywhere you go and everything you do should reflect the glory of God, and you should shine with the glory of God. But the skill that God has given you, the talent and the purpose that God has given you is for a reason. It's almost like if you are taking something and shoving it down somebody's throat, they're not really going to be receptive of that.
Right.
But if you enter in a room with your talent first and tell them, hey, this is what I have, this is what I can do, it makes them intrigued and it draws them in. So your character, your behavior, your demeanor, who you are as a person, how you carry yourself should reflect Christ. And if that reflects Christ, that is going to make people want to be like Christ in trying to be closer to you. So I say that all to say that we need to understand what our ministries are. And God told me early on that this is my ministry. Entertainment is my ministry. Like being in front of the camera, doing all of this stuff is my ministry. And to the typical Christian that believes that having a ministry means that you gotta take this Bible and go tell people, repent or you will die. That sounds like a whole lot of jargons to them for me to be saying something like that. But my ministry is fashion. My ministry is podcasting and anything I do that has to do with entertainment. And your ministry is counseling.
Exactly.
So we all have individual gifts that God has given us. And the way in which we use it for the glory of God is how we are going to be able to win souls.
Amen. Because that is my ministry. My ministry is counseling. And I didn't realize that was my ministry until I was saved. And then once I was saved, that's when I learned that that truly is my ministry. And I've embraced it.
You can tell that that is your ministry because that is where you thrive. And it's obvious, like I see is like what you're so passionate about. Even when you're like, today I'm off. Like you were saying, like, I don't want to do this, but I just told you about something. You're like, oh, and this and that. And I'm just like, that is who you are.
Right.
Because that's who God has made you to be. You can't not be that.
Agreed. And you're absolutely right. Not every day is like, yay, I'm in my ministry and that's not, but again, that's not life, right? So I try very hard to help people and counsel people to know what their ministry is also. And I think that's part of being in my own ministry.
I know that you're not very front facing person, like you really don't like the camera, but you're here because of mental health. And that,
This is where God told me was my platform to be able to share my ministry with the world. And that's why we've come together to create this space, this open, healthy, honest, safe space for people, women specifically, but people in general, to be able to understand that it may be out of your comfort zone, your ministry, and how it is manifested, but it's still God's will.
I love that you're saying that, because what you're doing takes a lot of courage, because some people know their ministry, they know their purpose, but they're not able to walk in it because there are people in their lives that are telling them that you can't do this thing. Like, for example, there are parents that tell their kids from birth, you are going to be a doctor. Maybe God has not pushed that child to be a doctor. Maybe that's not their thing at all. Maybe that child is meant to be a rapper. And parents, out of, I guess, maybe trying to protect their children and trying to make sure that they are secured financially, emotionally, physically, all around, push their kids to be what they are not really supposed to be, and discourage them from having worldly careers. I know, for example, I talked about being in entertainment. When the average Christian hear the word entertainment, or even just Hollywood, or being in front of a camera, they think like, oh, that's demonic. But if Christians are not in those spaces, how are they going to represent God?
Exactly.
How are they going to represent Christ? And just, this is kind of like, by the way, there are a lot of conversations now. People are talking about, as Christians, we should not be using AI. We should not be into the conversation of AI and all of that. And my take on that is, we do need to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
In every innovation, everything that is going on in the world, we need to be a part of it as Christians, because we are getting the worldly perspective, but then we are also giving them what they don't have, which is Christ.
Exactly.
Because how are we going to introduce Christ into new industries if we are not open to be where God wants us to serve?
Exactly.
Which is why we're all different, and God has given us different talents, different skills, because he wants us to be in these different spaces representing him.
Right, exactly. And also in those spaces to be able to represent him in whatever our style is,
Yes.
whatever our expression is. And going back to what you were saying about the child that is forced to be a doctor, it's really detrimental to that child, because you're forcing that child to be unhappy, to be disappointed, to be feeling shame, feeling unheard. I mean, there's so many negative things that the parent is inflicting into that child, that is not going to allow that child to be in their own space and expressing themselves, whether it be through fashion, whether it be through counseling, whether it be through whatever that is that God's your purpose is, but to do it and expressing yourself so that you can feel the most confident in whatever it is that you're wearing.
Also, just, it's not the heart of God for you to make your child to be torn between what God has placed inside of them and what you want them to do. Because ultimately, as a parent, I don't have any kids, but I have been a child. So I would say that as a parent, what you are meant to do is to nurture that child into discovering themselves, into discovering what God has placed inside of them. Some parents go as far as to pray about what their child is supposed to be. And even before God gives them the child, God tells them, this child is meant to be this. And because God has given them his own creation and what he wants for that creation to be, they're able to raise that child properly and groom them into what God wants them to be. And I don't know if those people live the best life or happy life, but I assume that they.
But at the same time, you're assuming that their parent is a Christian. And because if your parent is like my parents were not Christians. My parents were not saved. I dropped out of high school when I was 15, gonna be 16. And it was okay with my parents because neither of them were educated. But not knowing that my purpose and my ministry reflected on the ability for me to be educated, that God put someone in my life that was also taught how education is going to give you the road to what you need to do and how you need to be prosperous in life. And that's where I learned how to go back to school. That was that person that encouraged me to get an education, to move on into my next ministry, into my purpose in life. And that's where it goes back to the parent. Did the parent teach you based upon what they knew, or did they teach you based upon what God told them?
I'm just sitting in what you said because it really does make a lot of sense.
I was taught how to dress, but I wasn't taught how to get an education.
And that's what you needed for your life.
Then getting licensed was a struggle because it was constantly being pushed back and pushed back. And it wasn't but by God and God's grace upon my life and putting the right people in my life that now I am not only licensed in one state, I'm licensed in two. And that's because God, I believe, wants me to be a global counselor.
Of course, yeah. I mean, being on this platform, yeah, that's exactly what it is. God doesn't miss.
No, he doesn't.
He never missed.
You just have to be patient.
But we need to stop asking, is this career too holy enough? Is this outfit holy enough? And instead have a heart shift of how can I use this to glorify God? Whether it be in designing clothes, drafting laws, or just whatever career that you're in, or whichever skills God has given you to use. How can that glorify God? How can I use this to glorify God? Because that is what God has anointed you to do, and that is what he has anointed you for.
Exactly. And also I would say, ask yourself, is this too worldly? Are people saying to you this, you are too worldly? Because remember, Jesus was called a glutton and he was called a drunkard for hanging with sinners. And that you can find in Luke 7:34. And you know what? You're in good company.
Yep. Question to our wonderful listeners. What's your unconventional ministry field? We want to know. Let us know in the comments. We want to hear from you. And just to kind of close this off, we want the Bible verse that we want you to meditate on for this week is in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7, 1 Peter chapter 3, from verse 3 to 4, and then going back to the Proverbs 31. If you could read the entire chapter of the Proverbs 31, do that. But if you can, just then read 31:25. So that is where we're going to end this conversation today. It's been such a lovely time having this conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it very much. I think it was very pertinent to who we are and how we manifest in our destiny and what we look like while we're doing it.
We're going to end there. But before we go, we're just going to plug our social media platforms. So we are available on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram at the Bible Babe Network. And if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe. We post videos every week, new episodes every week, along with Bible and Breakfast. And also wherever you get your podcasts, we are available on those platforms as well. So please subscribe and leave us a rating and a comment. What have you. Like we said, we want to keep the conversation going, and this is a safe space. So let us know your thoughts and your takes on this conversation or even previous conversations we've had. And we will be seeing you in the next episode. Until then, stay safe. We love you.
And stay blessed.
Bye.
Bye.